Good evening, Patriots, and welcome to another edition of the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places to be tonight. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Thank you very, very much. Going to start off tonight's show with a little bit of devastating and sad news. As many of you already know, a swath of high winds and heavy rain plummeted much of Kentucky over Memorial Day weekend, causing power outages, broad destruction, impassable roads, and produced lots of tornadoes, claiming several lives. It was part of a punishing weather system that stretched from Texas to West Virginia and has killed at least 21 people as it headed towards the East Coast on Sunday. Lexington and much of central Kentucky dodged the worst of the violent storms. There were some power outages, down branches, and pouring rain, but residents there missed much of the destruction seen around the Commonwealth. Last night, many families and communities were not safe, the governor said at his Memorial Day news conference. We had devastating storms hit almost the entire state. Among the dead is a 67-year-old woman in Mercer County, a woman in Hardin County who was 62, a 48-year-old woman in Hopkins County, a 34-year-old man in Jefferson County. The governor has not yet released their names. Mercer County Coroner David Rosendale said the deaths there happened when a tree fell on a house, causing the roof to collapse into a bedroom and killing a 67-year-old woman that was in bed. He pronounced the woman dead at the scene at 1:15 a.m. yesterday morning. The woman's husband was with her and he survived. He was injured, taken to the hospital, but his injuries were not life-threatening. Louisville, I'm sad to report, we've had one fatality following the severe weather that was moved through the area and some structural damage, reported by the mayor there, Greg Greensburg. Greensburg said on social media platform X, "Please join me in holding this family in our thoughts and prayers during the difficult time. May their memory be a blessing." The death of Louisville happened around noon Sunday when a man was hit by a tree on Hobbs Station Road. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Yesterday, Blanchard said there was no storm victims unaccounted for as of his knowledge, at least. More than 174,000 people are still without power in the state as of yesterday as crews worked to clear down trees knocked onto power lines and high winds. Crews also were working to clear debris from many of the roads. And it wasn't just in Kentucky. We had deaths in Texas and Arkansas, just from Texas all the way across into, especially up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, all the way to the East Coast. It was just devastating. It's still happening. We just dodged some really bad weather right here where I'm at in southeast Louisiana tonight. It moved just south of us, so that was good. It's out in the Gulf of Mexico. Anyhow, if you ask anyone on the left or Democrats what's causing this, they no longer will say that it's climate change. They will say that it's caused by Donald J. Trump. Yeah, it's pretty pathetic. I've been saying for the past year that the only way Biden is going to remain in the White House is Trump going to jail. Well, in the New York case, the prosecution and the defense have said their piece. And whether or not the judge is going to continue into the night, giving the jury what they need to start deliberations, or they're going to take a recess and come back tomorrow for him to do it, I'm not sure, because they're still in the courtroom as of right now. The only reason for these court cases against Trump is to save Joe Biden from not being reelected. The Democrats know they cannot get Joe reelected based on his record. And their only shot is talking negative about Trump and praying these far-left liberal Trump derangement syndrome DAs and judges convict Trump before the election. That being said, a jury acquitting former President Trump in his criminal trial this week in New York would be the worst case scenario for Democrats, according to a CNN reporter this past Sunday. I think that it's very likely this is the only trial that we're going to get before Election Day. This case is not a slam dunk, which means that Donald Trump may very well not be convicted. See, they're throwing everything they got on this because that's their only hope. Acquitted is the worst case scenario for Democrats, CNN political correspondent Sarah Murray said. The jury started hearing closing arguments today in the criminal trial where Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg charged Trump with 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. An acquittal before the November election could boost Trump's chances over President Biden in the tight race, Murray predicted. Donald Trump gets to go out there and say, Joe Biden's prosecution came after me, the Department of Justice came after me, and still they didn't convict me. Which, that's exactly what he will say if that happens. I'm still innocent, Murray continued. I also think you could end up somewhere in this sort of muddy middle where you end up with a hung jury, a jury that cannot reach a verdict. And then this truly does not get kicked to the voters, and this truly does get kicked to the voters to decide. Legal analysts at MSNBC, however, were all but certain that Trump would be found guilty by the New York jury. Anti-Trump attorney George Conway claimed that the evidence was stacked against the former president and that it would be hard for the jury not to convict him. I'm not sure what trial he's been paying attention to, but it's not this one. I don't think they can get an acquittal. I don't think they're going to get 12 votes unanimously to acquit him, Conway told MSNBC's Katie Fang on Saturday. I think their best shot, and that's what they're going to do, is hope that there's just some person on the jury who refuses to convict. Former U.S. Acting Solicitor General Nate Callaway also argued the prosecution had a common sense case against the former president and predicted that it's highly likely he would be convicted. I suspect it's going to be successful, he told host Jen Psaki on Sunday on her MSNBC show. Democrats and Republican pollsters who spoke with Fox News Digital claimed a conviction or acquittal wasn't likely to make any difference with voters because American beliefs about the two candidates are already baked in. According to a recent Quantified University survey, 62% of registered voters surveyed, Democrats and Republicans, that a guilty verdict would make no difference to their vote for president. 15% said it would make them more likely to cast a ballot for Trump. And 21% said it would make them less likely to vote for the former president. Americans from all over the country gave a blunt assessment of the New York trial last week in remarks to Fox News Digital, going as far as to call the case a total farce. It sounds like a kangaroo court, actually. Brad from Clovis, California said, I think it's a total farce. If it's not thrown out, I'd be shocked. Well, you can be shocked because it wasn't thrown out, and it's going to be up to the jury here soon. And this is what the case, this is where it all comes down to. Do these 12 members have Trump derangement syndrome? Did they go into this hiding their bias to convict Donald Trump? Because the evidence that the DA put out, I'm on record already telling you what I read. I've read every single transcript that that courtroom released about what the evidence was said by the prosecution and the rebuttal by the defense. And there is no case here. There's not a snowball chance in hell, trust me, as a veteran law enforcement officer and somebody who's been in the court system many, many times, dealing with law enforcement type issues, there is no way a jury of 12 that's not biased would be able to convict on what this DA put out there. It's not possible. Their only hope is that these 12, like I say, went into this hiding their bias, and they don't give a damn what evidence was said or presented. In their mind, just like the left and all the Democrats, he's just guilty. That's the only way it ends in a guilty verdict. And today is Tuesday. So before this week's up, folks, we're going to know. I'm pretty damn positive. Would it go through the weekend and into next week? I doubt it very seriously. If I was the jury foreman, we'd go back behind closed doors. We'd take an immediate vote. And if it's bias, it's going to be all guilty, or one or two people are going to hang it up and turn into a hung jury. And if they're not biased, every one of them would say, not guilty, let's go back out there and send this judge and the DA packing their shit out of this courtroom. All right. Let's go back and look at the 2016 campaign between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton for this next story. Hillary, as you may remember, was under investigation by the Department of Justice and the FBI. All this was over her private email server that was in a basement of some freaking restaurant, unsecured, sending all these classified documents and information via email on an unsecured server. She denied it all. When they found out about it and put out the order that all this information be kept, she deleted 30,000 something emails. She physically had a company destroy all of her electronic devices. I mean, it was a mess what this bitch did to cover up. And of course, the Department of Justice and the FBI at that time were all Democrat and were going to do whatever they could to protect her. A few weeks before the election, and while the law enforcement investigation was ongoing, the Department of Justice Attorney General Loretta Lynch did something that sent shockwaves across the American justice system and got away with it. She met privately with the husband of Hillary Clinton, the person under investigation. When this information was exposed, she said, we only talked about each other's kids and family. Anyone who is not brain dead knows that that was bullshit 101. And it was probably one of the most outrageous things any Department of Justice Attorney General has ever done while in office, or at least in my time. It would be like a judge overseeing a trial, meeting privately with the prosecution's witness family members. Beyond unethical, to say the least. Well, lo and behold, if we're not seeing this same type of scenario unfold again. President Joe Biden paid a visit to his former daughter-in-law's home this past Sunday night. The president's brief visit to Haley Biden's home comes before she is expected to testify as a witness in Hunter Biden's gun trial coming up. The first son is charged with making false statements on a federal farm when purchasing a firearm in 2018. The October 23rd, 2018 police report indicated that Haley, who was in a relationship with Hunter at the time, that's right, after her husband, Hunter's brother, Joe Biden's other son, died His name was Beau Biden. Of course, Joe tells everybody he died in Iraq. He did not. He died in America of a brain tumor. After he was dead, his sleazy brother, Hunter Biden, wormed his way into the bed for a relationship that was doomed from the start and started having sex with his brother's wife. In the police report, she admits she found the gun and got rid of it, that it was owned by Hunter Biden, and she dumped it and she put it in a dumpster behind a school. Biden allies argued there was nothing inappropriate about the visit. Well, considering the top of the American law enforcement chain of command is the President of the United States, and the DOJ and the FBI follow their direction, and he appoints them to the positions, hell yes, it's inappropriate. The court in Hunter Biden's case met for its final hearing before jury selection begins on June 3rd. Fox News has previously reported that prosecutions plan to use portions of the book and laptop, including photos, to convince a jury that the first son is guilty of making false statements on federal form when he purchased a revolver in 2018 while actively using narcotics. Biden has pleaded not guilty to the charges, just like he has with the tax evasion charges, where he didn't pay taxes on millions of dollars. That's coming up too. Judge Marilyn Norcrolla said special counsel David Weiss must show Hunter Biden was addicted to drugs, but not necessarily using drugs the day he purchased the gun. He admits in the book, and there's photos in the laptop of him doing crack cocaine the entire time this incident happened with the gun. In court documents, Hunter Biden's defense attorneys asked the court to block certain details that were slanderous of his life from being shown to the jury to avoid significant risk of unfair perjuries. In what is called a motion in limine, Hunter Biden asked the court to exclude reference to child support proceedings that were taking place in Arkansas and reference to his discharge from the Navy. That's right, he had a child with a stripper. They were doing drugs together, and then he left her. She had a child, his child. DNA proved it. He denied it, and he spent years not paying child support, refusing to pay child support until it was settled out of court. Hunter Biden was in the Navy, and then he was kicked out for what? Drum roll, please. Cocaine use. This is in reference to the child he fathered out of wedlock with the ex-stripper, London Roberts, whose daughter is President Biden's grandchild. Acknowledging that some of the evidence prosecutors wish to bring forward may be relevant to the case, including drug purchases, ATM withdrawals, and the purchase of the revolver itself. Hunter Biden's lawyer said other details, like referencing to money allegedly spent on adult entertainment, online chat rooms, escorts, and prostitutes, are not relevant to the charges, so they do not want him in there. Well, it was the other way around, and he was a Republican. Let's say maybe he was Donald Trump, and it was the judge that just oversaw this case, or is overseeing this case in New York. And guess what? Every bit of that evidence would be allowed, as we know. They're in trouble, folks. The Democrats are in trouble. Many Democrat Party strategists are predicting defeat in the heated race against former President Trump and Joe Biden. You don't want to be that guy who is on record saying we're doomed, or the campaign's bad, or making mistakes. A Democrat operative told Politico, nobody wants to be that guy. This isn't, oh my God, Mitt Romney might become president. It's, oh my God, democracy might end, they said, adding that Biden's low poll numbers have contributed to freak out among Biden supporters. A recent Bloomberg News Morning Consult poll found Trump leading Biden in seven key swing states: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Biden won every one of those states before North Carolina in 2020, and they were decisive to his victory. Biden advisor revealed to Politico that donors are also concerned about the incumbent president's campaign against Trump. The advisor said that it's much easier to show donors the weaknesses of Biden's campaign, so while they read it, I can pour a drink. The list of why we could win is so small, I don't even need to keep the list on my phone, the advisor said. But not all Biden supporters are speaking like this about their concerns over the 2024 presidential campaign. Outspoken strategist James Carville, who I've interviewed on this show before, has been critical of the party's messaging and approach to this year's election. Another Democrat strategist spoke openly about the greatest obstacle that the Biden campaign has overcome in order to achieve victory in November. There's still a path to win, but they don't look like a campaign that's embarking on that path right now, political strategist Pete Jenico said. If the frame of this race is what was better, the 3.5 years under Biden or 4 years under Trump, we lose every day, every week, and twice on Sunday. Even in blue strongholds like New York City, Trump's aggressive campaigning in the South Bronx has Democrats worried. AOC, when he went to have the rally recently, said, weather's going to be crappy. Guess what? Nobody's going to show up. You're lucky if you get a few hundred people. And over 28,000 people showed up. New York Democrats need to wake up. Manhattan President Mark Levin told the outlet. The number of people in New York, including people of color, that I come across who are saying positive things about Trump is alarming. Earlier this month, former Obama advisor and CNN political analyst David Axelrod warned that Biden was making a terrible mistake by definitely defending the state of the economy, saying if he doesn't win this race, it may not be Donald Trump that beats him. It may be his own pride. Veteran Democrat strategist Paul Beglin worried in March that a third candidate like Robert Kennedy Jr. or Cornel West could follow it up for Biden and throw the whole election to Donald Trump. When you start losing CNN and you start losing the Democrat pollsters and political analysts and people from the Obama campaign speaking up, past campaign going, oh, we're in trouble. You're in trouble. I've been saying this for years now, and louder since Biden took office and removed all of Trump's border protections, that it's not if another 9/11 terrorist attack happens in America, it's when and where. And this also is on people's minds this November when they go to vote. What happened on the southern border? Pay close attention to this next story. A former federal firearms instructor who worked at Marine Corps Base Quantico in Virginia is warning the strange arrest of 2 Jordanian nationals in a box truck at that base may have been a dry run to test security outside the facility ahead of a terrorist attack. The same truck, had it been loaded with explosives, could have been a devastating weapon if it made it close enough to an occupied building, he warned. Driving the box truck was a dry run for driving a box truck that was not going to be empty the second time, said Dan Katz, a former DEA agent and CEO and founder of Global Security Group. Can I prove that? No, but it's like the 9/11 hijackers trying to get aboard planes with box cutters on other occasions prior to actually doing the act. Can they get away with it? According to the report from the federal government's 9/11 Commission, those terrorists took cross-country test flights, smuggling box cutters into the plane before determining the best time to storm the cockpit. It's their equivalent for a feasible study, Katz said. What would happen if we get off the highway in a box truck and try to get into that base and kill people? The two men had no weapons, no prior criminal record, and nothing in the truck. Authorities have released no evidence that they had any terrorist-related motive. However, Kate said, he doubts their cover story that they were contracted drivers for Amazon or that they could have made a wrong turn. Amazon said it was looking into the matter, but it didn't believe that these people, these two, had anything to do with their company. Two men, both from Jordan, arrived at the base in a box truck on May 3rd, allegedly posing as delivery drivers for Amazon and attempting to get on the base. Military police stopped them at the gate, but the driver ignored them and tried to move into the compound. Due to the swift response and execution of their duties, the officers were able to deploy a vehicle denial barrier, preventing any further access to Marine Corps Base Quantico, and detain the individuals who were eventually turned over to U.S. Immigrations and Customs custody. Captain Michael Kurtz said in a statement, Acting Immigrations and Customs Enforcement Director Patrick Lenchard said that the two were facing removal proceedings. However, they have not publicly been identified. At least one of the suspects entered the U.S. illegally through San Diego back in April after crossing the border from Mexico. Critics of the Biden administration have warned repeatedly that the country's open southern border puts America at risk, as enemies could sneak in among the migrants. The other suspect overstayed his student visa. A student overstay somehow gets in contact with somebody illegally crossing into the U.S. on the other side of the country. Both of them wind up in that truck, Kate said. There is no possible explanation for what happened other than a sinister one. Quantico is a Marine Corps base that also houses training facilities and the lab for the FBI and the DEA, which could be potential terror targets, Kate said. Can anyone come up with any reasonable explanation as to why two illegal aliens, both from Jordan, would be driving a box truck in a sensitive area other than to say they were making a dry run for a future incident? Kate said, if you can't prove an explanation for that, it's terrorist related. And I could not agree more. It's not if another 9/11 attack happens in America, it's when. And it's going to happen. And when it does, look no further than Joe Biden and his weak ass administration for allowing our border to be so damn unsecure. His oath to protect the American people, he failed at. And so did every one of his administration, especially the Homeland Security piece of shit, Alejandro Mayorkas, or however you pronounce his freaking name. That freaking, never mind. I won't go there. Former President Trump said that he will stop the radical revolution happening at American college campuses if he's elected president again. That's real leadership. Trump also vowed that he would throw foreign students protesting against Israel out of our country. Send Alejandro Mar and Rashid Tlaib too, please. He said, one thing I will do, any student that protests, I will deport them out of this country. You know, there are a lot of foreign students. As soon as they hear that, they're going to behave, Trump said. Several donors of Trump's expressed concern that anti-Israel students and professors would one day hold positions of power in the U.S. Trump said they were part of a radical revolution. It has to be stopped now, Trump said of the protesters, and praised the New York Police Department's handling of the encampment at Columbia University, aiding that other cities should follow suit. Well, if you get me elected, we're going to set that movement back 25 to 30 years, he said. Trump also told the wealthy New York donors at a closed-door event that he supports Israel's right to continue its war on terrorists and praised his White House policies that were happening at the time he was in charge with Israel. Trump has faced pressure from GOP donors in recent months to take a stronger stance in support of Israel. Back in April, Trump notably said during an interview with conservative talk radio host Hugh Hewitt that Israel, regarding its war in Gaza, needs to get it over with and let's get back to peace and stop killing people. Asked about the donors' description of the New York event, the Trump campaign National Press Secretary Carolyn Levitt issued a broader statement to the Post. When President Trump is back in the Oval Office, Israel will once again be protected. Iran will go back to being broke. Terrorists will be hunted down, and the bloodshed will end. While claiming anti-Israel demonstrations seen across the country get smaller crowds than rallies, Trump said that Israel is losing its power in Washington, D.C., particularly in Congress. It's incredible, Trump added, questioning how Jewish people could vote for Democrats at all is amazing. I agree, sir. I got the same issue with black people voting for Democrats. I used to be a Democrat. Trust me, they're racist bigots. The main party is, not necessarily Democrats, your neighbor. But those in power, those 60, 70, 80-year-old Democrats in Washington, D.C., in the House and the Senate, are racist bigots. So is Joe Biden. Go back and look at all the racist shit he has said. It's right here on the internet for the world to go back and listen to the crap that's come out of his mouth. Not only that, but he's anti-LGBTQ, and all of a sudden now he's not. He's supporter of it. No, this guy is a bigot, the president of the United States. And that's factual information that anyone could look up on the internet and look at a history of Joe Biden's remarks on black people and on the LGBTQ community. How many of you enjoy playing video games? Or did when you were growing up? I did when I was growing up. Every now and then, today, I still play Flight Simulator. Well, regardless if you play now or played before, or if you never played at all, everyone has heard of Mario, right? Well, the remake of Nintendo's Paper Mario, The 1,000-Year Door, now features, are you ready for this? A transgender character in the new US version of the game. Mario is now woke. According to a review of the game by Nintendo's Life magazine, the Nintendo Switch character, Vivian, known from its original version of Paper Mario released in 2004, was born a male. Vivian is featured in the video game as a villain with her sisters, Marilyn and Beldam, in their fight against Mario. Vivian eventually goes off on her own due to her sister's bullying and their tendency to repeatedly call her a boy. In the first Japanese version of the game on GameCube, Villain, a purple ghost wearing a pink and white striped hat, reportedly tells players about her struggle with gender identity, but it was omitted from versions from the game sold in the US, according to the National Desk. The English translation of the game, released in 2004, claimed that Villian was reportedly bullied not because she was transgender, but because she was ugly, the New York Post reported. How I managed to get this far into this story, not start laughing, I don't know. I'm sorry. This is legitimate shit, folks. This is how crazy things are right now in America. And you need to know this as the election's coming up. The new version of the game for the Nintendo Switch platform in the US now includes rhetoric about Villian's gender identity and validates the character as transgender. Truth is, it took me a while to realize I was their sister, not their brother, Vivian tells players. Now their usual bullying feels heavier. Villian isn't the first transgender character to make waves in the video game world. A video game series that is marketed to children came under attack last year after announcing an update that would allow characters to have double mastectomy scars and chest binders. The Sims 4, which calls itself the ultimate life simulation game on its website, allows players to give characters top scars that come from breast removal surgery. Hogwarts Legacy, a Harry Potter video game, features a transgender character named Sharona Ryan. Took them a second to realize I was actually a witch, not a wizard. Sharona Ryan, a character who owns the Three Broomsticks Tavern in Hogsmeade, tells the main character. Some well-known characters also recently underwent a transgender rebrand in the comic world. Danny Maloney, a character in the Archie Comics universe, has been turned into a transgender woman in the new comic to make the series a little bit more queer. I don't know what to tell you. It's insane. It's just insane. It's not even 1%. It's not 0.5%. I don't even think it's 0.25% of the population of America as transsexuals, guys dressing up as women or women dressing up as guys. Yet the rest of us have to bend to that ideology. Look, I got nothing against what you do behind closed doors. I don't care if you're gay, if you dress up, if you're a guy, you dress up as a woman, like my stalker Glenn Ray Hyder does. I don't care what your sexual preferences are, as long as you're not doing something that's harming children. But when you start pushing that crap on our kids, which is what these video games are doing, and these comic book characters, and what Disney's doing, for crying out loud, how anyone that's conservative would ever go to Disney or take their kids there again is beyond me. They're not paying any attention to what Disney's doing. They're taking all their characters and just turning it into this woke bullshit. And it's spreading like a fungus all over the world, not just America. Well, except in the Middle East. In the Middle East, they kill you if that kind of shit came out. So I don't get it. I can't wrap my head around how these CEOs of these major corporations are bending to this ideology unless they themselves happen to be a transsexual. We now know, and it's fact, it's out there now. If you didn't know this, well, I don't know if this would be a shocker to you or not, but United Airlines has been doing a bunch of crazy shit, no longer hiring people based on their ability to fly airplanes. No, it doesn't matter how many flight hours you have as far as you meet the minimums, what your education is, what your experience is. I mean, you could be the top pilot in the world. Wouldn't matter if you're a white, straight male. They want to hire, and it's on their website too, by the way, in the diversity section. You can check it out for yourself. They want to hire everybody possible but a white, straight male first, which is putting your safety, my safety, on the front burner. The FAA is doing the same thing. If you're a private pilot and you've got the hours needed to make it in the airlines, and you go in there and say, I'm a transsexual, and just so happens that, you know, the people you're going up against are straight white males that have way more hours and experience than you, guess what? You're getting the job over them. And a lot of people couldn't figure this out. Why would United Airlines do such a thing? And then somebody did some digging and found videos online of the CEO of United, who is responsible for this diversity bullshit. He's a drag queen. He dresses up and he goes to these parties and these nightclubs dressed up as a drag queen. And now we understand why United Airlines is doing that. Look, I don't care if you're a drag queen. I don't care what your sexual orientation is. I don't believe it's morally right to push that agenda on our children, period. And parents that do so, I believe, this is me speaking, Douglas Ducote, should have their children removed from them, and they should be charged with either child neglect or child abuse. Children do not have the mental capacity to understand this bullshit. And it takes going into pretty much into your teens before you start having sexual urges and a desire from one sex or the other sex or both sexes. And it shouldn't be until after you're an adult, 18 years of age, that those decisions can be made to transition you one way or the other. It should not be up to parents with a 12-year-old. But yet, that's what the Democrats want to see happen. And it's crazy. Just like it is with the abortion stuff, where they want to go all the way up to the point of birth. At birth, if the mother decides, abort it, they want the doctor to be allowed to kill that baby. That's how insane this is. And of course, the liberal logic behind this, Democrat logic, is that, you know, well, that's never happened before, and it probably will never happen. It doesn't matter if it's never happened before. You're writing it in the law that it can happen. That a woman can go 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, and make that decision to terminate that living child. Or at the time of birth. You want it in law that that is okay. That is murder. And if you don't think it is, what happens in America if someone murders a pregnant woman? What are the charges? Is it one charge of murder or two? If you don't know, it's two. So if you can be charged for murdering a woman who was pregnant and charged twice because of the unborn child, if that's what we do in our justice system, then what's the difference outside of our justice system? If the justice system sees that as murdering a baby, why don't we see it elsewhere? And it shouldn't matter which side of the abortion fence you fall on. There comes a point where you have to realize that this fetus has reached the point that it can live outside of that womb. And we have the medical technology. Babies are born all the time premature. I'm talking little bitty things, just like this, with legs and arms and a head and a mouth, nose, eyes, ears. And they keep them in incubators, and it takes a while before that baby can be out on its own and go home with its parents, sometimes a month or two. Has to gain a certain amount of weight and so forth. But that happens all the time. Women go into premature labor, and they have babies that are very, very tiny. And some of them in other countries don't have the technology we have to grow these babies longer, an incubation type of system, and yet they still live. So are we ever going to get the left and the Democrats to realize that the side they're falling on in history will show and prove is the wrong side? Chances are we're not. When we have Democrats in charge of the House and the Senate, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, or a split Congress, or you have Republicans in charge or a split Congress, you're going to have complete opposites of what's going to be allowed in this country. Democrats are going to have one belief where we have to bow to 0.25% of the population's ideology and push it on our kids with drag queen shows in schools and so forth, and abort babies at the term of at any point in the pregnancy. And Republicans are just the opposite. And of course, then you have when Republicans do, or the U.S. Supreme Court, for instance, just kick the abortion debate back down to the state level. What did the Democrats and the liberals come out and say? On all their news media platforms, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, every damn one of them said what? That the U.S. Supreme Court banned abortion in America. And they're still pushing that bullshit as we get closer to this election. And that is not what the Supreme Court did. They just kicked it to the states and said it is up to them to vote on what they do or do not want to allow in their state. When it comes to the abortion decision, I'm for that. Allow it to go to the states. And if you are against abortion, guess where you're probably not going to live? And vice versa. Anyhow. As we get closer and closer to November, more and more crazy ideology is going to spill out for the world to see. It's going to get literally, I every night I go to bed and I think to myself, I'm glad the day's over with because it can't get worse than this. And then I wake up to the alerts on my phone and go, what the hell was I thinking? How in the hell look what they're doing now. And I want to be able to separate the craziness of the left from my normal show when I do this, the Douglas Ducote podcast. And so what I did is I put together a new Rumble channel. I've got the Douglas Ducote Show that's broadcasting live on Rumble, but I also put together a new Rumble channel. I did this last night. It's titled, ready? Exposing Anti-American Liberal Commie Bastards. Go there and subscribe. And what we're going to do on that channel is, in my day-to-day of being ready to get ready to what I'm going to report on the Douglas Ducote Show, I come across tons of far-left liberal shit that I would like to talk about and share with you, but some of it is so freaking stupid and crazy that it's just going to waste time when there are other things that need to take up this hour that you need to be aware of. So I'm going to take those little bits and pieces. Some of it is, a lot of it's going to come from Twitter, all right, where people like AOC and Ilhan Omar and Rashid Tlaib and, you know, all these crazy left-wing people and those that attack me personally speak out and say shit that's just mind-boggling. Like, really? What kind of freaking bad crack are you smoking? And that's what's going to be on that channel, exposing their absolute no merit bullshit. So again, it's called Exposing Anti-American Liberal Commie Bastards. It's also in the community section of my YouTube channel. And I also put out a video earlier today talking about it. It's on the YouTube channel as well as my Rumble channel. Once again, we're going out live now via StreamYard on YouTube, on Rumble, on X, formerly Twitter, and on LinkedIn. In the future, we have other places we go live as well. And then after the show airs, I also upload it to douglasducote.com. In the description of this show and all my shows and all my videos, see the other places where you can follow me on social media. Follow me there. I'll follow you back. That's how we do this. That's how we continue to spread the word and let people know what's happening out there. And it goes two ways. American patriots need to have the real news that's important to you. But at the same time, I feel you also need to have this crazy ideology that's coming from these left-wing nut jobs, because they're voting, folks. They are, and they've got a huge following. Some of them won't have a few subscribers to their channels, for instance. But AOC, for instance, or Rashid Tlaib or Ilhan Omar have millions of these mindless sheep believing what's coming out of their mouth. And they say some things that are just, it's not even shocking. It's just pathetic. And so this will be a place where I will upload that type of rhetoric to separate it from the normal show. So I hope you go there to the Rumble channel and subscribe to it as well. Folks, you have any places to be tonight? You chose to be here with me, and for that, I'm forever grateful. I'll be back here on Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central. I hope that you will join me. Please share this channel, wherever you're watching at, whether it's on YouTube or Rumble or X or LinkedIn, for friends and family. Tell everybody about the show. Share the videos. As we move closer to the election, we've got to get more and more of this information out there for the American public to be able to see and understand what's going on. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families in our country. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless each and every one of you. Anything breaks between now and Thursday, I'll do a video about it or I'll do a live show. Other than that, have a blessed night, and I'll see you back here on Thursday. Good night, everyone.